dodging the wind, dodging the gold. Yeah. Live in the sun, trying to be whole. We trying to get gold, we trying to get on. Dodging the pen, dodging the flow, dodging the wind, dodging the cold. Yeah. Live in the sun, trying to be whole. We trying to get gold, we trying to get on. Used to stress about them dark days. Now I see the sun with the clouds gray. Keep my thoughts in my pen when I'm up late. Had to cut my lines, now I got the dark day. Look at my face, look at my soul. Yeah, I'm running last place, man, I'm moving too slow. How you supposed to win the race when the whistle never blow? Feet stuck to the legs, gotta walk the tightrope. Yo, so we living like we grow, but we never cave in, never saving, we never patient. Coming from the mud, so the money caked in. Hopping out the water like young Jason, young Jason. Dodging the pen, young dodging Jason. The flow, dodging the wind, dodging the gold. Yeah, live in the sun, trying to be whole. We trying to get gold, we trying to get on. Dodging the pen, dodging the flow, dodging the wind, dodging the gold.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
A rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell and Whitey's on the moon. I can't pay no doctor bills, but Whitey's on the moon. 10 years from now I'll be paying still while Whitey's on the moon. You know, the man just upped my rent last night, cause Whitey's on the moon. No hot water, no toilets, no lights, but Whitey's on the moon. I wonder why he's upping me, cause Whitey's on the moon. Well, I was already giving him 50 a week, and now Whitey's on the moon. Taxes taking my whole damn check. The junkies make me a nervous wreck. The price of food is going up. And as if all that crap wasn't enough, a rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell, and Whitey's on the moon. With all that money I made last year for Whitey on the moon, how come I ain't got no money here? Whitey's on the moon. You know, I just about had my bill of Whitey on the moon. I think I'll send these doctor bills, air mail special. To Whitey on the moon.
Use a few words just to get it stacked. Packing in my curves just to ship it back. Shipping off the curb, tell me where it's at. Enunciate my birds, where's my favorite rap? About to cut my hair just to grow it back. We ain't popping over here, we just on the map. Profit off our fear, that's their favorite task. I am not so aware, so I keep the cash. Let me slip past. Find another route, that to get the gap. Had to throw the cow just to save my ass. Now we on the mouth with our favorite class. If we move it out, we ain't getting past. Now we moving out, now we showing out. Showing on our pain, just to get the clout. Tattoo all our scars, what's the real amount? Looking at my phone, where's my bank account? This ain't my bank account, I ain't the same amount.
You can't get in a position of power, it seems, if you think like that. It seems that the only time you get in a position of power is if you're like the people that are in power. To me, I mean, that's the way it goes. I mean, people that get to become executives become like the people that were already executives.
I don't know, maybe
they go in with good intentions, but it eats them up. It's like a cesspool.
back to the paid program. Losing all my sense from this broke land. Only feeling good when we hold hands. Maybe we can slow dance to these old jams till our toes run. I just wanna eat my pie from old Sam, and we all can. I've been learning from the bottom like the ocean. No light up in my brain, now I'm feeling open. Gotta find my core with a potion. Skin is feeling dry with a lotion. I don't mean to sound rude, I was just hoping. Hope I find a dollar, hope I find a love. Hope I'm just a scholar that's just trying to get above. I ain't living for my buzz, I'm just living for the love. You ain't gotta reach your stars when God is in trust. Keep the wishes tugged just in case your pennies got love. I'ma always talk to God even when my time's up. I'ma always talk to God even when my time's up. I'ma always talk to God even when my time's up. I'ma always talk to God when the time's up, time's up. Brown Buddha on the beat. Check. I used to count dollars for a living. Now I stack records to the ceiling. Dodging all these villains, never catching feelings. Catch me in the wave, best believe I'm chilling. Yo, my father told me better, so I'm never chasing cheddar, never chasing greed. Get up on your knees, I'ma need you to pray better. Think you flying higher than every person at Coachella. Please, could you stop it? Every time you spit a line, you be thinking about them profits, thinking about deposits, forget about the process. Focus on your mind and close both eyelids. Yo, you need to turn the lies and vocalize these potent lies. Why you telling lies, selling pies in the skies? You a snake in disguise and I despise it. Hope you drop it. Use your brain, don't you know you got logic? Yeah. Yo, use your brain, don't you know you got logic? Your frontal lobe, don't be dumb. Use your brain, don't you know you got logic? Yeah. Your frontal lobe. Use your brain, don't you know you got logic?
Diamond blank, full of pistol swing, gang bang.
I'll be tripping, never winning, always sinning. My ascension just beginning, and I'm feeling independent, yeah. And I'm feeling independent, yeah.
You are now tuned in to the Cosmic Convos podcast, your number one source for accurate, relevant, and thought-provoking astrological conversations in the podcast nation. The place where stars and minds align.
Peace. You're now tuned into the Cosmic Convos podcast. I'm your humble host, Harut, and I got my good brother here, Brother Ra. How you doing?
Peace, brother. Living, learning, and applying. That's about it, Tim.
Indeed. But before we get too far, I want to remind you all to make sure you like and subscribe to this channel or whatnot, and hit that notification bell so you can know when we are actually going live out here or whatnot. And as always, this episode was brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group, Kelly Astrology, and our good people over there on Patreon. Big up to y'all. Indeed, or whatnot. You can find us on, of course, you can find us here at Push It Forward Podcast Network on YouTube. You can find us at Push It Forward at PUSHITFWD on Instagram. From there, you hit that link tree. You can get to everything that we got going on. Brother Ra, how can the people get a hold of you?
Same old same, 3 ways. Astrology@gmail.com, Shekam Ra on IG or Facebook. All of those are tap my shoulder.
Indeed. So, here we are, man. We're we're getting close to that end point of this season, getting close to that that 100 episode mark, getting closer and closer of whatnot. It's been a long time coming. We just creeping along or whatnot. So we're at episode 19 of season 4. That'll make us on episode
94.
94. Episode 94, man. Big ups to that.
Yes, sir.
Indeed,
yes, sir.
total or whatnot. So, we were definitely glad to be here. Glad that you all are still tuning in and growing or whatnot. If you were tuned in on Instagram, I post. It's always interesting because we chart, but I just decided to start posting it because I'm like, what's going on in Latin America? What's up? So shout out to Colombia.
Colombia.
Shout out Mexico.
I gotta make my way down to Colombia. I got to make my way.
Man, them tickets is cheap right now, man. I look, they real cheap right now, man. We or whatnot. You can get down to Colombia for round trip for about $350 or something like that.
Is that right? Yeah, I might have to do that.
Indeed, or whatnot. But Colombia, Mexico. We also, I didn't post that one, but we've been charting, throughout the year for sure in Korea. We even hit some spots in India and stuff like that, I mean, this is Vedic astrology, right?
Got to get over there. For sure.
Indeed. But so it's interesting to see, we're picking up, all across the globe and especially, growing right here in the States as well. So definitely shout out to all of y'all. And those of y'all internationally, hit us up, find us on Instagram or, if you catch us on YouTube and stuff like that, go ahead and hit us up and, touch base with us or whatnot. But yeah, so last episode 18, that was a great episode, man. We got a lot of real good, solid feedback from that one, man. I think
we did.
Yeah, because it was a lot of things that I mean, that I've never seen like a country's chart just unfold like that,
Beautifully, perfect.
And we have video evidence of the actual.
That was perfect.
Or whatnot, and I since we did that episode, man, I've noticed YouTube has changed some things with the algorithm. So like, I've noticed that like when you watch something, YouTube is doing a better job of really identifying content that relates to the stuff that you've been watching or whatnot. So like since we did that episode, a couple Ghanaian channels have been popping up or whatnot. And right. So I checked out a couple of them and stuff like that. And man, it just, Ghana compared to a lot of other places, and there's some other places. I heard Uganda's a good place that people repatriate and stuff like that. And some other Kenya I've heard people do out there and stuff like that. But like, Ghana, it does. I mean, just, looking at the chart and then just like checking out some of the Ghanaian channels, some of the, Ghanaian, content creators out there, it fits. It fits very strongly, man. So, hey, like I said, one of the missions of this podcast is to legitimize astrology. You understand what I'm saying? As a bona fide science and stuff like that. So just seeing those correlations definitely helps us do that or whatnot.
Yeah, I watched it again. It was a great podcast. I really enjoyed it.
Say that again?
I watched the podcast again myself. So it was, just sitting back and able to observe and enjoy it. It was definitely informative, well put together as far as the timing. Everything just hit perfectly. And like you said, that video was the cherry on top, right? You can't get any better at that than to have a country display its own birth.
Right. Right, exactly. Yeah. So big up to that or whatnot. So before we get moving in today's show, Rod, you got anything that you wanted to impart on the people before we get rolling?
No, I'm ready to get on into this here topic what we got to discuss today.
Indeed. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So you saw the title, You know, some of you guys, you saw the cover art. Um, you know, this brother's been in the news recently. He's been in the news for the past few years or whatnot. You know, we did the show on cancel culture, right? So, you know, he was experiencing that for a few years, but you know, a lot of his escapades and stuff like that really wasn't a secret, but you know, it just seemed like nothing could stick to him for a while or whatnot. And recently we see them drop the hammer on him or whatnot. And you know, none other. We're talking about R. Kelly. You know, very, very, very successful and very talented. You know, R&B artist. You know, out of Chicago. You know, he was. You know, he had like the Midas touch for a minute.
Man,
Right?
serious.
He had the serious Midas touch or whatnot. I mean, everything he touched, boom, boom, boom. And when we go through, you know, this chart today, you're gonna see both sides of that. You're gonna see that Midas touch, and you're also gonna see all of the other things that has gotten the brother in some deep trouble or whatnot. So none other. We're talking about R. Kelly or whatnot. So you know, normally I'll do the claps, but we'll just keep it silent for right now.
Yeah, we don't want to ruffle
We
any
just
feathers.
we just keep it silent.
We already got snit one time, right? We want to stay as far away from that as possible.
Exactly.
But
So yeah.
yeah, you know, there's some interesting things about this gentleman that you know, and I start this off with saying that one of the things that astrology teaches you is compassion.
Absolutely.
You know, being as an, you know, coming from an Osirian school of thought where, you know, we really look at things from an impartial, destiny oriented point of view, that everyone has their lessons, everyone has what we would call their sins, right? And so,
Right.
where this is not a podcast to ridicule, to demean, or to diminish the man in any way. This is just to show, as my good brother said, the validity and the power of an ancient science in modern times. Peace, brother. So, you
Peace.
know, this was a very interesting process to create to start, because there's a few, you know, there's really one time out there which we discussed earlier, me and Harut, and it's 1247. You know, and the good thing about the astrology that we have access to, we have another system that conjoins with the transits called the Dasha system, and the Dasha system by far, right, really just shows how time unfolds, right? Dasha systems is a system that we can look at more or less like different chapters of life, how life unfolds from the chart's perspective in each area. And so the 12:47 p.m. to be exact, he is born um, uh, January 8th, 1967 in Chicago, right, Cook County. And you know, the time that they have out there, I just have to say it is lazy astrology, right? We have a gift that we can use these things, dashas, um, um, Varga charts, to really fine tune and know what happens from birth, from the cradle to the grave.
Right.
So, you know, and you know, I was definitely one that was bumping R. Kelly, right? You know, I was on the bandwagon, and you know, for good reason, because the brother's music is melodious, it's catchy, right? It sticks in your head. You know, at the time I was listening to it, you know, I was definitely doing some of those things that R. Kelly was promoting in his songs, so it wasn't, you know, far removed from, you know, vibing out with it and really rolling with it. And there's a lot of other songs that aren't just oriented around the things that, you know, kind of got him in trouble, but you know, he's got
Yeah,
some
he
good music.
we was listening to he said this in the songs, not what he was doing in
Right,
the
right, right.
not what he was doing out there in the streets, but what he was
Exactly.
promoting in the songs.
Right.
I guess let's make that
Exactly.
clear.
Right.
All
Make
right.
that very clear. Right. So, you know, but a lot of good music, right? Large
Yeah,
catalog, massive, right? Massive.
massive.
And the time that really fits best for this good brother is uh, 59 minutes after midnight, 12:59 a.m. And I went through. You notch it, you move it, you adjust it, right? You tweak it until you see things begin to just set and fall in line. And you're going to see tonight how these things are undeniable. Just like when we did last week with the Ghanaian chart,
Right.
infallible, right? Infallible. Same thing tonight. You're going to see the power of, right, sidereal slash Vedic astrology. So when we start off looking at a chart, we have to kind of build it and construct it. It's just like, really unpacking a person to get to the deeper layers of who and what that person is. But on the surface, right, this good brother is a Libra ascendant. And Libra ascendants have the knack to be, very friendly. In fact, I even met R. Kelly once, a little hole in the wall bar, club, what have you, in Colorado, right? We were sitting next to one another. He looked over and he did have an entourage, right? Mostly women, right?
Hmm.
But the way the chairs were situated, my chair was sitting adjacent to his, but I had my group, he had his group, and he leaned over and actually spoke to me. Hey brother, how you doing? Oh, hey man, how you doing, brother? You doing all right? And what you doing in Denver? Oh, I'm just hanging out, doing some. I think he was doing some music, some kind of way. I think there's some studios, and maybe he was doing some tweaking of the music or what have you. Didn't get into a whole lot of detail, but very cordial, very respectful, very open, very friendly, which Libras are, right?
Right.
Um, Libras typically enjoy social status, right? Because of that easy rapport that they build. And you've never heard of R. Kelly really being, in the sense of outside of these circumstances, really someone that would be disagreeable. You know, so Libra definitely is right and exact in regards to his ascendant. Extremely beguiling, right? And I mean, you have to be right in order to really have an affinity with the ladies, right? You have to have the ability to disarm people, and put them at ease. So this
Right.
is Libra's gift, right? They're people, right? In fact, he's got a song called Party People, right? Libras like to have fun, they like to enjoy, they like to live the good life. But one of the things that Libra also has a challenge with, depending on how the chart is positioned, is that they're caught between two worlds. They're caught
Hmm.
between the world of the materialistic side, right? The ability to really have the best of everything on the material side, and they're also caught in the middle of leaning towards or leaning into the spirituality, right? And it's funny that this is the case because what's his name? Farrakhan, right?
Right.
Said
Right.
that he met him and said that the brother has to be spiritual in order to write those types of songs. And you're going to see he does have a penchant, a leaning towards some spirituality in his chart. It's not devoid of that. But again, this battle, right? This fight, this, am I going to go this way, right? Or am I going to go this way? Well, sometimes we lean and don't know why we lean, but this is some of the cases that we see with Libra ascendant.
Right.
And you know, the thing is that when we get into the fine tuning of a chart, we want to take it and really hone it into the degree, because the degree of the ascendant tells us very specifically the life pattern, the undergirding powers that the person is gifted with from birth. When you hit the air, when you breathe that first breath, right, that is your ascendant degree, right?
Right.
And we have it at 3 degrees, right? 3 degrees, specifically 29 minutes. That puts them in Shitra Nakshatra. This is another thing that this system has that the other systems don't have, right? It has a very specific way of cutting a chart into 27 different portions to look at a smaller, more concise portion of that sign. So not all Libras are the same, not all Virgos, not all Leos, right? They each have their own special knack within the certain amount of degrees that they're placed in. So right? Each one of these particular nakshatras is governed or ruled by what is called a deva. In the West, we would call it deity. In the Kemetic vernacular, we would call it a neter, right?
Right.
In the West African, it would be an orisha, right?
Lua.
Right. So Shitra, right, is governed by Mars, and it's the star. Each one of these particular 27 portions is connected to a star, so they're actually star based. In fact, they even say that this preceded. They used this preceding the 12 signs, right? Because they're called
Yeah,
the
I could. Yeah, I could
It makes
definitely
sense,
see that.
right?
Yeah,
It makes
absolutely.
sense. Peace, Queen. Peace, peace, Ta-Nehisi. Um, so each star is very special, but this star is even more special. This is probably the most special star in all of the 27 because it's actually called Spica, right?
Right.
Right. And Spica is used to determine what we called an ionamsha, meaning that we use Spica to create the actual 0 degrees Aries that we know in this form of astrology. We don't use a date, we use a star. So this is a star-based system. So Spica is very special. It's called the gem or jewel. And a gem meaning that when you cut a gem, each time you cut it, each time it gains another facet, it sparkles and has another refractive quality to it. So this man had that special knack, that special star power, as they say, right?
Right.
The other thing is that, as I mentioned, is ruled by or connected to a deva. The deva is called Javistar, right? Javistar is the architect or right the engineer, right, or um, the inventor of the gods,
Right.
right? It is aligned to perfectionism to a fault. And me and this brother know very well what that's like, right? Because we have some of our prominent placements in those particular stars, in that particular
Right.
star. So, perfectionism, making sure things are exquisitely, explicitly perfect, right? This is how he was able to produce from the inherent qualities of his nature the music and the award winning albums that he was able to create. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, folks, when it comes to right musical ability, and especially leaning because Shitra is split between two signs. It's half of it is in Virgo, half of it is in Libra. So that three
Right.
degrees Libra, it leans towards the Venusian type of outlet, which is music,
Right.
right? Right.
Right.
So, the thing is that because of it being the master architect or the inventor of the gods, he didn't have, Javistar doesn't side with either way. And it still hones back into that Libran disposition of being kind of in the middle, not on the demon side, the Asuras, or the materialistic side, and not on the Deva side, or on the side of the supreme being, or leaning towards spirituality. It's in between because it created the weapons for the gods. Indra's bow, right, was created by Javistar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vishnu's discus, right, is created by Javistar, right? So this particular nakshatra has the ability to create, and it's an impartial process. It doesn't sway either way. But again, Libra has to learn the lesson. Are you going to be spiritual, or are you going to be material? Because you can't serve two masters. The other thing is that, and just as the ability to create weapons for the gods, this man created music for the stars. So, in other words, the stars are like the gods. He created music. If he touched your music, if you got a song, a beat, or something from R. Kelly, you're bound to blow up. He's almost kind of like Dr. Dre in a way. And on the
Right.
musical side, you're gonna get a gift from that man, and that man that's gonna take you to the next level, right? He wrote for a lot of people, right? In fact, um, and we won't get sidetracked into her, but we'll come back to her in a little bit. Aaliyah, right? Aaliyah was his right under his wing. A lot of her songs and her kind of star power is him behind the scenes making those things happen. So, just in that sense, anyone that comes under his particular um, protection or ability, you're going to get some type of gift or gain from that, from being affiliated with them in the past, of course. Now, the other thing, interestingly enough, is that each one of these 27 nakshatras or lunar mansions has an animal totem that's associated with it. There's several things that go along with each one of these asterisms, which is another name for a nakshatra. It has an animal totem. Each one of them does. But the one that's associated with Shitra is a female tiger. It is known, it's only second most to Vishaka, which is the other tiger, which is a male tiger. It is known for its sexual prowess, right? Its sexual appetite. The tiger is one of the most potent and virile animals in the animal kingdom. In fact, they used to take in India tiger penis and sell it because of its potency. So this harkens back to this man's insatiable desire for these types of things. And I'm not labeling it bad or good. I'm saying that this is how he's created, fashioned, and formed to have that type of energy. And sexual energy is also created to or tied to creative energy, right? Right. That power is tied to the brain as well. It's tied to the ability to have those gifts, to have the deep insight and connections to make something of beauty, like a gem or a jewel.
Right.
Right. So this is interesting, right? The way this ties in so perfectly. Now, the next thing that we look at is, this is the ascendant is kind of like the overall general kind of pattern of life, powers that you inherently have, gifts that come without even thinking. It's not even a thought process, right, for this to happen. But we go to the moon, which is the mental disposition, to understand kind of the operating system or the reflective power of a being or a person, so that we understand how the inner world is formulated. And his moon is in Scorpio. This is debilitated, folks. Right? This is debilitated. And so, I don't want to throw debilitations under the bus completely because, like I said, everything has its gifts, its talents, its abilities. So, that Shitra energy, that perfectionist energy, is also connected to someone that's very intense. Moon in Scorpio is extremely intense, extremely passionate, right? Moon in Scorpio is all or nothing. It's not half stepping. So his mental disposition, his emotional makeup, right? His overall power and ability to feel, right, is very, 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 very strong, meaning that it's not something that's just going to halfway do something. So you tie these two together, you can begin to see why his gifts would take him to the heights that it has, right?
Right.
In the Western charts and, stuff that me and this good brother were talking about earlier, it puts his moon in Mula. There's no way that he could have these type of gifts with the moon in Sagittarius in that particular nakshatra called Mula. It doesn't come with this particular power. The other thing is that, inside of Scorpio, this particular nakshatra is Jayesta, and Jayesta is connected to a very specific entity. We talked about it actually the last show, right? Didn't we, brother?
Yeah, we did.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna give you all a secret, right? And from many of my students, some of which are watching, I do appreciate y'all tuning in. The diehards, right? the way you read the way you read the outcome of a nakshatra is, number one, there's stories, right, that are connected. Each one of them, like we talked about, Java Star, right? Jayesta is connected to a deity or a deva, and the deva is Indra, right?
We just talked about Indra a second ago.
Indra is a very powerful entity in the scheme of things because it's called the king of gods.
Right.
Right.
It's a
Indra,
teacher.
that bow that was created by Dravastar, right, is held by Indra, the god of thunderbolts, like kind of connected to, in a sense, he's kind of Thor-like, right? Right. Just like Thor has that hammer, he has a bow. Now, and that bow, guess what it shoots? Thunderbolts, right? But this particular portion, and the secret I'm going to give you, right, is this. We've had a discussion. We've mentioned 3 different Jayesta connections. We've mentioned it in the Ghana chart. We're mentioning in this chart, and we also even mentioned in Nigeria. Nigeria is also connected to Jayesta, but here's the difference. In Ghana's disposition, in Ghana's situation, the ascended Lord, which is Mars, is in the 6th house of Aries. It's strengthened. So you see the positive aspects come out of Indra. Indra is, remember I mentioned in the last show, it fights a dragon, right? A grand dragon or a grand beast, and cuts the water that the dragon drank and releases the water back to the earth. That means that on the positive side, you begin to see where those lords are placed, to see how the disposition is going to come out. In Nigeria's side, Mars is in Gemini in the 8th house, which then we can see the corruption that follows Nigeria. Despite them having one of the highest GDPs, they're still considered one of the most corrupt countries in Africa. Right. Well, with this individual, the same thing happens. We follow where that particular Mars, that lord of this particular sign, where it goes, and it is in the 12th house. So you can start to, if you know a little bit about what we're talking about, you can kind of start to lean in on what this outcome of Indra is going to be. So there's different stories, as I mentioned, right?
Right.
One of the stories that's connected is, and before I even go there, right, the other pieces that Jayesta can produce is someone that is extremely demanding, right? Extremely outspoken, controlling, manipulative. So Jayesta has these penchant qualities. In fact, it's really the hallmark of what most of us would think of as Scorpio. The other 2 nakshatras are slightly so, but this one really calls it home.
Right.
Right. To a T. It's ruled by Mercury, which is where it gets its outspokenness from. When you saw the Gayle King show, you saw Jayesta at work. Right. Man got up, said his piece, right? You're trying to take my life. You're just trying to destroy me. Right. Cancel culture, right? And we're going to tie.
They were R. Kelly. They were. I mean, he was right.
Hey, look.
That's exactly what they was.
Look. And remember, we have a show on cancel culture. We're going to tie that in too. All these shows connect in some way, right? You're going to see how in just a minute. So, the thing about Jayesta in its connection to Indra is that Indra, along with Agni, as far as the actual devas are concerned, Indra and Agni are considered the most sexually driven, right? They have a strong penchant for sexual appetites. And in Indra's case, it gets him into trouble.
Right.
Interestingly enough, right? Indra is tied to a story that he actually slept with a sage's wife, right? Sage Gautama. And sages in the um, Sanatana Dharma, or what you know as Hinduism purview or background, spiritual background. Hinduism again is a name that people familiarize, but the proper term is Sanatana Dharma. So if you ever hear someone say Hinduism, they're kind of on the surface, but when you hear Sanatana Dharma, they really are deep practitioners of that particular spiritual system. But Indra, well, in this particular system, sages have a lot of power, right? Sages can even command the gods to do things. And it does make sense because once you become a divine being, right, those forces of nature become they literally are at your will, right? You can move those forces of nature because you have conquered or overcame them to a great degree.
Right.
So the sages have a great deal of power. Well, Sage Gautama had a wife, and Indra disguised himself using those right hidden tactics that the scorpion energy can create, right? He slept with his wife, and he was cursed with 1,000 vaginas all over his body. Now, right, he did a lot of penance, right? He put in his penance, meaning that he did his spiritual work, and those vaginas, 1,000 vaginas, turned to 1,000 eyes, right? But this just goes to show that the sexual veracity of Indra fits very well with my man R. Kelly, right?
One thing real quick, because I got this question in the Patreon. Someone wanted to get a good source for all of these stories. I know a lot of people are listening. I know they're in a lot of different places, but you know they want to get a good source for these nakshatra stories. Hold on, let me flip back real quick so they can see that. Got that? Boom.
Right, there's the answer to your question, right? Mm-hmm. Right and exact. So this fits very well with R. Kelly's disposition, right? Scorpio is a very sexual sign innately anyway, right? So it fits well for Indra, right? The king of the gods, right? The Thor of India, to have its connection, right, to this particular sexual sign. And R. Kelly, right, as we're going to explore, definitely displayed this on a repeated level. Not in the sense of being indicted or caught up, but just in the music that was created. Now, the other thing is that when we begin to look at this, Indra is known to have a lot of women, lots of women. He's known for having an entourage of women. In fact, Indrani, right, Indrani, his wife, right, had to fight off all these different women, right, that kept on coming around, that couldn't stay away from his virile and his his manly power. So it's kind of odd, right, that this particular brother has this entourage, this group of women that were really, right, kind of for all intents and purposes trailing along the path. In fact, his wife even mentioned, and I know there's a lot more to it than that, because trust me, there's always more to meets the eye than relationships. We only get half the story. One person's half and the other person's half, and the both combined usually create the truth. But nonetheless, right, his wife even mentioned that he always had women after him. So considering, right, this kind of goes with the territory of being that, having that moon, that mental disposition in Jayesta. Now, going deeper, right, as I mentioned, we want to look at a few things. We won't look at the sublord, and sublord is a term that we use to denote what other secondary planet rules the nakshatra. So Mercury is the secondary planet. We'll tie it in a little later, but in fact, just noting that in Libra ascendant, Mercury rules the 12th house, right? The 12th house is a very specific house we're going to talk about because we're going to talk about the ruler of the moon and where it is. It's in the 12th in Virgo. Remember, I said earlier, how do we see if this particular nakshatra is producing those qualities that deal with fighting, which is leaning towards the obviously in the spiritual realm of things, or is it gonna have the negative aspects or the more challenging aspects as far as corruption, greed, right, and those things that we would consider socially unacceptable? Well, the 12th house is that house. We're going to talk about it in a minute, but the 12th house is considered your closet, right? It's the bedroom.
Right.
It's where you do your business, right? Where you regenerate, where you sleep, but it's bed pleasures. It's a hidden house. It's not something you and I would see. Like I said, it's your closet. It's things that are behind the scenes that you will never reveal.
Right.
However, right, time has a way of showing all things, doesn't it? So the thing that Mars in the 12th house will produce outside of its rulership of the moon and the second house and the seventh house, Mars in the 12th house creates a warrior for fantasies, right? A warrior of fantasies. You understand what I'm saying here, folks, right? We're going deeper and deeper into this, right? Where you're in now, you are in the rabbit hole, right? Welcome.
Right.
Right? Mars is a planet of vigor, so vigorously active in the bedroom, right? And some ladies are like, oh my gosh, right? Is it true what they say, right? 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 Vigorously active in the bedroom, demanding in the bedroom, right? Another thing that happens is that passion, which is a uh, epithet or not an epithet, but an adjective that goes along with Mars, right? Passionate, right? Behind closed doors, right? But also very strong-willed. So these are things that when you begin to kind of get wind of, right, what the kind of common or current headlines are, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
It does.
Right.
Jeez.
Right. It goes with the territory.
Right.
The other thing to consider is Mars for Libra Ascendant. It's not the greatest planet, right? Libra Ascendant is considered one of the best ascendants, if not the best. But it's just not a planet that does well because it creates such an attachment to the values of your partner, right? Your partner has a lot of impact on how you make your decisions. Partnerships create a whole whirlwind for Libra. In fact, one of the things that Libra has to learn is to let go of unsavory, unhealthy relationships when they begin to pull or sway them again away from their spirituality, right? So the other thing that you can consider with Mars in the 12th is that it can create aggression with situations while being incarcerated.
Right.
Right. And there has been some hearsay. I don't know if they're rumors or if they've been confirmed, but somewhat, right? I've heard that some things have happened betwixt himself and other individuals or inmates while he's in there. And so Mars in the 12th, definitely while you're behind those particular four walls, right, can create some drama, right? Right. Now, the piece here is that When we look at the ascendant is going to give us some indications, because what's in the ascendant looks at the seventh. What's in the seventh looks at the ascendant. Rahu is in the seventh house. So Mars has some of that Rahu power.
Right.
Mars carries that energy with it. So even more so, this placement is creating a backdrop and an undertow of insatiable desires, things that can't be quenched. Remember, we talked about already, he's Shitra Ascendant, which is a female tiger, slow, burning, intense, right? Waiting to pounce, right? At McDonald's. No,
No,
no, just play, right.
that was low.
That was right. That was
That's what
just
they
a
say, though,
sidebar.
man.
But that's
what they say.
that's what they say, right?
Right.
And again, they say, right, that he would go to the high schools. Not to say it's true, but interestingly enough, the female tiger is probably more fierce than the male,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of its drive and its need to get something out of the situation. So this is not an easy energy to deal with, folks. This is hard stuff to face and to master. Right? We take it lightly because we're not in that particular position. How many of us do you know have a Shitra ascendant within at the third degree, which puts it at a Scorpio Navamsha? That is hard to deal with, folks. See, this creates compassion. It gives you an understanding that we all have our sins. We all have our skeletons in the closet.
Right.
Right. How many of us can walk up and say that, I'm completely absolved of sin. I have never done any this, that, and the other. And here's a reality. Even a thought is a thing.
Absolutely.
Right. So if you've had the thought, you've had the reality. Just because you and I we are not able to or privy to see it, what goes on in your mind is something that your mind experiences as reality. So again, if we had access to each other's thoughts, we'd all be R. Kelly. Right. Right.
We did a show on that particular thing on itself about, compassion and astrology, I mean, 'cause that is a real thing, and people really do like to do that. They like to go and, point out and be like, you did this, and it's like, maybe you didn't do that thing, but you do that thing. You understand what I'm saying?
You do it, right?
Exactly. I had it was in one of our ceremonies, when somebody brought down the concept of a centimeter, not a centimeter, but a centimeter.
A centimeter, right? Where's your level hidden, right?
It's like that. You got this idea about this wrongdoing is that much worse than what you're doing. In reality, they're all the same. The impact really just depends on what your main lesson is. Maybe smoking weed for somebody else might be nothing, but for another person could be like the kryptonite.
Exactly.
Like what's his name? Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon, former wide receiver for the Browns and whatnot. I mean, shoot, weed took him out the league, literally. And all the players smoke weed. All of them do it. But he for him,
right? Exactly.
Exactly.
So again, this is not to ridicule or demean or diminish the brother, because I have a lot of respect for a man that has the determination and drive to make something of himself and to even help others do the same. That is not what we're here to do. What we're here to do is show the power of the science and the ability to see how these things work, right?
At birth, someone would know that he had those potentials sitting there,
right?
And in a uplifted, cultivated, community, or family, they could have, maybe, developed him a certain way, You know, but part of it, I mean, but you know, also this you can't sidestep destiny. So a lot of this he had to go through. This is his part. This is what he signed up for.
Right.
He signed
Right.
up for it.
You know,
You
and
know,
and the thing is that karma, right, is a very serious part of what we practice and study. Right. No one escapes the long arm of the law. Right. So the person that is raped potentially, more than likely, had the experience of raping someone in another life. Right.
right?
The
That
person. Go ahead.
no, I was at to the question asked. So it's not if you know, I mean, in general, spirituality doesn't mean you know you don't ever defend yourself, you don't ever make corrections when need to be made, but it's just in the spirit of what you understand what I'm saying. You know, of course, nobody would want to have those things done to their own daughter, of course. And if you happen to be there when something like that was happening, you know, I know the creator wouldn't have a problem with you taking care of your business, right? Or whatnot. So, but it's still, after all that, putting in context and looking at it from just a holistic perspective of why. Why is it happening? Why is this person doing this? You know?
Exactly. You know, in the spiritual vernacular of Kemet, Asar is an eye, right? It's observation alone, right? So, you know, from a higher perspective, remember, karma is a trickle down process. Right? When you are seeing someone born with deformities, with some arm or limb missing, how do you know in another life they weren't the perpetrator in war, that they removed the arm of a child or an innocent person in those circumstances? So they have the opportunity, and I'll say opportunity because that's exactly what it is, to
Right.
experience life from a perspective that, unbeknownst to you, you are going to now feel the inability to use the same tool or ability or part of your body that the other person had the unfortunate circumstance of experiencing. And where does it stop is the question. It stops when you realize that you are responsible for your own destiny. Ultimately, you are responsible for the responses that you give in life. That's why spirituality calls and hearkens you to be able to center yourself and understand the thoughts that come up from the subconscious all the way out, and be able to put thoughts back into your subconscious at the same time. So that person that experiences those experiences, no, it's not an excuse. No, it's not a easy way out to say, hey, they had karma, so they had it coming to them. Because it's also up to the person that if you can protect, that is also your karma as well,
Right. Right.
right? So
Indeed.
it's deeper than just the surface or just a one to one. It's chess, not checkers. It's not just the simple aspect of an experience. It's what's behind the experience, the lessons behind the experience. And this man is obviously someone that has a plethora of opportunities to learn from in this life. Doesn't mean that, you know, and what do they say? You only know how high you can go as low as you can go.
Right.
You reach heights, well, you have to be brought down to some depths to be able to understand what life is about. And those that reach those heights and that are not caretakers, not protectors, and not upholders of other people's innocence and also their particular karma, right? Then they have a lesson to learn. And again, we all have ours. So back to the specifics, right? Rahu being in the seventh house definitely gives a risk positive disposition in relationships, right? Rahu is risk positive. It takes a risk, right? It
Right.
has the disposition to experience and taste taboos. The area which it experiences it is the place is where where it's placed, and the outlet, the karmic outlet, is the area where that Lord is placed, which is the 12th house. So getting deeper into this, right? now we're going to tie it into some real time activity because we've got a good general sense of what's going on here. We could go deeper, right? We could look at the sun, we can look at everything else, but we're going to go a little deeper in the sense of timing.
Right.
Now, right now, as this man sits in prison or in jail, I don't know if he's in prison yet, but Saturn is transiting the fourth house, right? Saturn is sitting next to or very close to within 4 degrees, right? His ascendant lord. Now, the way this works, there are indicators, what we call karakas. Indicators are representatives or things that kind of show or connect to a specific house, even if it's not ruling it per se. But isn't it interesting that Saturn aspects the 12th house?
Right.
Saturn is the karaka for, guess what? The 12th house.
12th house.
Imprisonment. So he himself physically is feeling the pressure, the restrictions, the delays, almost a sense of denial that Saturn produces. I said a sense of denial, right? The thing is that, and you'll be surprised, he may very well not get the full life sentence that they're purporting because Saturn is his yoga karaka. It's the planet that gives him kind of like a leg up. Saturn is a gift to Libra ascendant because it's obvious. It's one of the things that's exalted in Libra, but it rules very special houses, and that connection kind of lightens the load a little. So we're seeing the aftermath, but we may also see that he may not get as much time as they purport a life sentence, right?
Well, the and you can see it in the case itself. I mean, he got charged with racketeering.
Right.
It's a weird case. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like everyone knows that he's participated in those activities.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And we're being careful because YouTube algorithm. We got certain words you can't say,
yeah.
right? You can't say certain
I learned
words.
that, Pope. Right? I learned that.
The R word is one of them, right?
Yes.
So, engaging in some of those activities, people know that he's played a part in that for sure, on some level, right? But what he's being charged with is almost like the Bill Cosby case a little bit, right?
It is very similar to the Bill Cosby case. Yes, you're right.
Right, because it's like they're trying him, or they're convicting him off of what they almost know that he did, but they don't. What the evidence that they're actually using is not the correct evidence to convict him for what he's being convicted for, if that makes sense.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
So I could see something happening with the case. I don't think it's going to be the sentence that he's been thrown. Something's going to happen. Something's going to get reduced.
I would agree, definitely. But the other thing is that it produces a very serious tone in your life.
Right.
Things become very grave. Things become very costly. Karma, right, is seriously at play when Saturn is sitting next to you. Your ascendant lord is you, right? So imagine, for lack of better terms, the Grim Reaper, right? Yama in the Sanatana Dharma vernacular or Hinduism, the god of death, right, sitting next to you, Sekert, right, Babalu Aye, right, sitting next to you, right. It's a very cold feeling, as if no one is there for you.
Yeah, you're gonna want to get up and go sit on, go find another chair.
And Saturn, it's gonna say, nope, you gotta sit next to me.
Ain't nowhere you can't go nowhere.
Ain't nowhere you can go. That's how it feels for him right now.
Right.
That's how it feels. That's what I meant compassion. And you have to even have compassion for the person that commits the sexual assault, the person that is the so-called perpetrator. You still have to have compassion for that person too.
Right.
because that person has an illness. Just like if you're sick from something else, sickness runs deeper than just the physical body. It starts in the mind, it starts in the heart. And interestingly enough, right, my good brother here pointed out that R. Kelly was molested by his sister at a very early age. Right. So this is not something that is just arbitrary. Right. Sexual addiction, folks, is very real. We all have some addictions. We all have our things that take us there, right? Some of it's food. For some of us, it's food, right?
Yeah.
Some of us, it's exercise. You can exercise to a fault. You can begin to break your body down. People that are bodybuilders, they want to see their body in this particular light. They begin to become addicted to it, and usually in an unsavory way, they begin to take steroids and begin to alter their body,
Right.
right? For some of us, it might be altering the physical body. Maybe it's tattoos,
Plastic
whatever it is,
surgery.
right? Plastic surgeries. We all have our addictions. So this is not to make an excuse for him. It's just to understand that, look, this man is going through his karma. He's experiencing his destiny. And the thing is that during his childhood, these things were programmed. When you are a child, this is the most sensitive, most vulnerable, most exposed time of your life. So when those things are replayed over and over and over and over and over and over and over, they have to be enacted because the mind, the yi leads the chi, and the
Yep.
chi is in the body. So, folks, this is not something to just sweep under the rug. These are things that are domino effects. Now, going deeper with this, right? He's experiencing a nodal. He's going to experience a nodal return just in April of 2022. So coming up, things are going to be very different for R. Kelly for the rest of his life. Nodal returns happen every 18 to 19 years. So at the age of 18, well, the last nodal return he had was 36, right?
Mm-hmm.
The nodal return before that he had was at 18, right? 19. So these nodal returns happen every 18 to 19 years, right? So it's a time frame where they purge, where they get old stuff and they bring it out to the surface, good or bad. It's not a personal thing. The nodes they're not a like, they don't like or dislike anybody. It's just a matter of energy at work.
Right.
Right. Not only that, he's going to have a nodal return. It's going to be in his first house and seventh house, right? The axis of his personality and other people. This is going to call attention to those things that we talk about as far as his tenacity, his directness, his forcefulness, his energy to make things happen. This is going to make things happen in another way. Watch, right? He's also having a Mars return at the same time. I mean, the deck is stacking, folks. You can see this gets thicker and thicker and thicker. He's having a Mars return. Mars
Right.
is in the 12th house as we speak right now.
And for y'all looking, that's where the 6 is at in this little dial, this circle here. 6th house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, not 6th house, six sign Virgo right here. This is the 12th house. So you can see what's transiting that
And
12th
look,
house right here.
Mars is behind it and it's approaching it.
Yeah, it's close.
Right. So Mars is at 20 degrees. His natal Mars is at 24 degrees. 4 degrees different.
This inner ring, y'all, is the natal chart, right? This is the natal chart. That's the inner ring. The outer ring is what's transiting right now.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
4 degrees difference, folks. 4 degrees difference. It's uncanny. This is how you know this is this man's destiny. This is his chart because this is happening at the exact time. And we haven't even gotten into the life chapters yet because when we get there, it's going to put a stamp on it. Then you'll see it for sure for what it is. Now, going deeper, right? The second lord the second house is ruled by Mars. Guess what the second house is? Your savings.
Money.
Right?
And it's dwindling.
No, it's dwindled. Gone.
It's gone.
It's gone. Now here's the deeper aspect. Some of you don't know that the second house and fifth house connections talk about your library, your catalog. His catalog, no one will touch it with a 10-foot pole.
YouTube, they took down his YouTube channel.
Cancel culture. I'm just saying, right? 12th house
Right.
is canceled. Remember, we talked about that during that particular podcast. The 12th house is cancellation. He's canceled. No one's playing his music. But the odd part is that now his music is getting more play on the actual.
Like I think Spotify. They said
Exactly.
Spotify numbers is out the roof.
Skyrocketed. So it's a kind of a bittersweet. And look, Saturn is sitting next to him, like I said, right? He's like, wow, my Spotify is blowing up, but I can't touch anything that's being produced from it. My catalog won't even be bought by anybody. You can't sell it.
Right.
That's your second house in the 12th of expenditure loss, right? So this is clearly what's cracking, right? The other thing is his diet. Second lord is what you put in your mouth. It's in the 12th house of imprisonment. This man is used to eating the best of foods, I'm sure, if he had that knack. Don't know what his diet was like, but I'm sure he had access and probably exercised that access at some point throughout his career.
Right.
So now he's getting a taste, the second house of imprisonment. I was like, whoa. When I started really rectifying the chart, I'm like, whoa. Getting a taste of imprisonment. That was cold. Like Saturn does next to the ascendant. This is how you begin to construct and formulate the complete composite of what a being's experiencing in this particular human experience. When I say human in quotes, it's in quotes because we are not human. We're divine beings having a human experience. So getting deeper, right? Mars also rules Shitra, which is the sublord of his ascendant, pulling also the physical body into the imprisonment process through transit. He was convicted September 27th when Mars was in the 12th house. He was already imprisoned, but the conviction now is going to stick it to where he's going to be there for quite some time. Now, Jupiter also, right, ruler of the 6th house, right, is in the 4th house as well, and this is enemies. And by the way, folks, the 12th house is hidden enemies as well. People that come out the woodworks. So during this trial and case, everybody came up and said something. 45 people testified against him, people, many of which were his right-hand men, security guards, people that worked for him, people that had his back, but they were secretly behind the scenes, right, being or are being used to make sure that the conviction stuck, excuse me. And it did. They got him. Now, Jupiter, right, is aspecting the 12th house as well, right? And this Jupiter rules litigation also. That rules the 6th house for Libra ascendant, so rules litigation, it rules courts. So he's feeling that pressure from Saturn and Jupiter simultaneously. He's stuck in the middle. I'm like, wow, this is heavy duty, right? So that's just the transits, right? That's just the large hand on the clock and the other hands as well as they move, right? We're seeing exactly what's happening. But now we're going to get into the actual life chapters of our Kelly. And life chapters is the Dasha scheme that I mentioned earlier, that we have the power to see from birth how you started off, what your karmic dispensation is. Right? Dashas are karmic dispensation. I started off in a Mars Dasha, right? So my Dasha, my karmic dispensation started off with Mars, right? And then, of course, proceeded forward. So that creates a whole set of events for me to experience my karma as it plays out.
Right.
This man started off in a Mercury Dasha, right? Mercury rules the ninth and the 12th, right? But it's in the third. So father wasn't there, right? Because it's the opposite to the ninth. It's in opposition to the ninth, right? Not only that, he enters a K2 dasha during his childhood. K2 is in the first house. K2 has the disposition to create things that are uncontrollable. Uncontrollable. You don't have a choice when K2 comes around. Y'all think we talk about Rahu. Rahu is the light end. K2 is like Oya. It demolishes. It's like a tornado. There's nothing standing after you have to rebuild. So this man experienced that at a very early age, that he literally was broken down, in other words. And the opposite is Rahu in the seventh. So that connection is very sexual, i.e., right? Someone doing something to him uncontrollably so that put him into a whirlwind or a spin. Right? K2 is like Oya in the Western African traditions, right? Oya is like it's like a tornado. It spins. In fact, when you see Oya in her dance, in the rituals, she has 9 colors and she spins, right? Isn't it? It's interesting, right? Hurricanes.
That Indian, Nigerian connection is very interesting.
It is.
It's a lot. It's a lot of
parallels.
It's a lot of parallels. Like I think I said it one time. There's a city in India called Orissa.
K2.
Well, there's a city in India.
Oh no, sorry. I'm sorry. West Africa. I was thinking K2, but go ahead. In
India. Called Orissa.
It is Orissa. Orisa. You're right. Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting? One called K2 in West Africa in Yoruba land, right? And then you have one called Orissa that's crazy, right? But anyway, that's a dead on parallel. But nonetheless, right? That spinning out of control, that spinning with no head, being headless, being subject to someone else's whatever, right? That's what K2 does. And it happens in the childhood. Happens in the childhood, folks. This is hard to deal with. This is not, whenever you have those dashas, those life chapters happen in your childhood, you have no control, right? None. I mean, you don't have any control anyway, but let alone to have a very impactful, very intense, very harsh energy like K2 for 7 years. That's not easy, greasy.
And K2 is in Swati. And Rahu
Nakshatra. Thank you, my brother. Right, you got to see my man's on it. Right, come out. Right, see he already there with me. Don't let him fool y'all. Right, he's right there with me. Trust me. Right, he knows this stuff very well. So K2's in a Rahu Nakshatra, and Rahu's in the 7th. Right there, showing you that this is exactly what is happening. Right, so the next dasha. And this is when we can now start talking about things that we know about R. Kelly. It hits in 1991. Right? 1991. I'm sorry, excuse me, 1981. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It lasts for 20 years because K2 is a short bid, right?
Short bid.
It's a short spot. It has to be. It's too intense. Could you imagine 20 years of K2? You would be dead.
Yikes.
You'd be in the interplanes. Yeah, you couldn't handle that. It's too much, right? And so it's like bitter. It's like you get the negative, and then here comes Venus for 20 years, and she gives you all that sweet netchum, all that nice, comfortable energy that soothes, that puts the salve over the burns of K2, right? So from 1981 to 2001, this man is in Venus Dasha, and guess what, folks? That's when R. Kelly blew up, right? Venus is in the fourth house in Saturn, a friend sign, right? And guess what is in the opposite to Venus? Directly opposite in less than a degree opposition, an exalted Jupiter in the 10th house, right? So that when those two things happen, the energies exchange, that exact opposition, and I'm gonna say exact within less than a degree. I mean, what is it? Jupiter's at 744, Venus is at 833. If you do your math, right? Venus would have to be at 844 to be a full degree. So it's less than a degree. You're looking at 7 and 8. I'm not looking at 7 and 8. I'm looking at less than a degree. That's an extremely tight aspect. So when that person, his physical body, his personage, his personality, his overall countenance, his appearance, his abilities to do what he does is aspected by an exalted Jupiter in the 10th house, he blows up. Right. And here's the thing, check it out. Can you make the Vim Shatari just a little bit bigger so we can see the Prantina, the secondary period, and go down to Venus if you can. Watch when he blows up, folks. Just take a look.
Boom.
Right. This is how you do it. Right. Jupiter, Prantianar the secondary period is called the Prantianar. The secondary period is sub Dasha, but is Venus Jupiter, meaning they're directly in opposition. He blows up in this period. Literally, his first album, right, Honey Love, was released in May of 1992. Right. Still Venus Jupiter, isn't it?
Right.
Right. Bump and Grind, 12 play. Now, granted, Venus is the planet of love making, right? So what would you produce other than Bump and Grind, 12 play, Honey? What is the food of Venus, of Heteru, of Oshun?
Honey.
Kamalamika? Honey. Honey love. Hello. This ain't no accident, folks. Right. This is how deep the rabbit. Now you in the now. Welcome, Alice. Right, because you're in Wonderland. Right. Right. You now can see this man's destiny at play, and you're going to see further and further here in just a minute. So Venus, right, produces all of these, right? Sex me, right? I know y'all know that song, Sex Me. I can start singing it because it's in my head. He put that in my subconscious, right? That's how powerful this man is.
Right.
So don't sleep on R. Kelly. He is a mastermind of music. That's what that Chopper Star is. It's a mastermind. Right? He introduces Aaliyah to the world. Right? He did marry her, and the marriage was annulled, right? But he did marry her in this Dasha. Right? Now, in the Saturn aspect, right? Saturn Bhukti, Saturn Prantianar, he produces a self-titled album, R. Kelly. It reached #1 on the charts, folks. It was the #1 album. That's I mean, hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. And then to have a whole album go I mean, 12 Play was a 6-time platinum song. 6 times platinum. It's not, you know, most artists would die, sell their souls to get that kind of recognition. So this is someone that really is destined for musical greatness, right? I Believe I Can Fly was produced and created in the Venus Dasha.
Think what? Yeah, when did that come? That had to be like 97, 98, right?
Right. Right towards near towards the end. Right. So this whole Venus Dasha, he's the man, right?
96.
96, right? See? Right? Venus Saturn again. Right. I think it was featured in the
Space Jam.
Space Jam. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. This is destiny at play, folks. This is the power of the astrology that we use, right? That our ancestors engendered. Not the Greeks, right? Not Hellenism, right? Not the Ptolemies, right? Not Hipparchus, not the Babylonians, right? Us.
Right.
Now, definitely. So the next period to ensue is the Sun Dasha, and this begins in 2001. And he does still have a lot of notoriety. Sun is notoriety. I mean, not notoriety, excuse me, wrong word. A lot of popularity, right? A lot of still accolades, still producing, making music, right? But interestingly enough, I didn't even know this until I began to match the pieces of the puzzle, right? Absolutely, right? Karma, you know, people say overnight success, right? It's karma at play, right? It's destiny at work, right? It never escapes that paradigm. When we study things, we understand that when we study certain spiritual systems, right? When we look at what we call the tree of life, there's a reason why destiny is at the top, right? Because it's trickled down into reality.
Right.
Right. You can't escape it. The other side is, right, that the ability to recognize and understand and have an articulate entity such as a guru, a sage, or an oracle display and connect you to that destiny, but it will not escape that or supersede it or leave it. They work hand in hand. Right. But when you violate the word of God, when you don't listen to your intuition, your inner conscious, the thing that's telling you don't do it, you have to pay the piper. You have to pay, right, in the terms of destiny.
Right.
Little occult secret for those that know what I'm talking about, right? So,
and he had his opportunities for sure.
You best believe
whole bunch.
He had fair warnings. Because we're gonna see about those fair warnings and how he escaped them. And guess what? The Sun Dasha. Now, interestingly, what I was mentioning is that he actually was playing, or either playing or was going to play, semi-professional basketball. That was one of his loves, his passions. Look where the sun is placed. Third house. Third house is the what?
Hands.
The hands. It's sports as well. So this is. Go ahead.
No, they did. I mean, he did have a reputation of being a good hooper.
Yeah, boy had some dribbles on him, right? So, you know what I mean? This is showing that this is when it awakens within him. He's already got the music thing down packed. Everybody knows R. Kelly. I'm going down in history books. I'm good, right? Now I can do some of my other dreams. I can live out some of my other realities.
Yeah, he's 30. He's in his mid-30s at this point, so he's already had a full career already. He could have bowed out right then.
And you still will be hearing "Sex Me" in the back of your brain, right? Right. Even if he just fell off, right?
Right. I mean, in this period, I don't know if you're gonna go there, but I mean, he dropped albums and he had smashes during this period of time, but he
Yes.
really lent himself to a lot of people during this time. He was a collaborator a lot during this
Exactly.
time period.
And third house is collaborations,
Right,
right? Colleagues, right?
right.
So, and look, Mercury is conjoined. So writing, right? Writing for others, right? Now we're not going to get into the nakshatra and all that because that would take us on too far of a tangent, and
We'll
we
be out
want
here 4 hours.
we would be here that long, right? Right, but we keep it nice and succinct because we've definitely gone very deep as far as some of his major nakshatras are concerned. But
Mm.
you know, in this time period, yes, he does have quite a few other albums. It's interesting that I didn't even know he was trying to collaborate with Jay-Z.
Well, he did 2 albums with Jay-Z.
Right, right.
And they came out, but at both times that he had cases that were coming up. Like that's when the first. I mean, everybody knew about the Aaliyah thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I mean, because I was in second grade when he was married to
Oh,
Aaliyah,
you making
and
me
I
feel
knew
old,
about
brother.
it. No, but I knew it. Yeah, I mean, I knew about it at that age. You understand what I'm saying?
Right,
So
right,
everybody,
right.
you know, but right when they dropped that first album, that's when the serious allegations started coming out first, and they drew back, so it didn't get no promotion or nothing like that. And then they went and tried to read up again, do it again,
Okay,
and then they came out even more.
And this son Dasha, right? And here's the thing: he has some disputes with Jay-Z. They were trying to do a major deal, and son, which is ego, can be egotistical, right?
Right.
The battle of egos, as they say, because Jay's ego probably is bigger than his, right? They did it, but they weren't gonna go all the way with it. They didn't really produce the whole full because they were trying to. He was mentioning something about doing stuff for black people and trying to make this music thing to where really we could really get some things out of it for our people, and they just didn't work out. One ego, the other ego. Hey, you know how it goes, right? But nonetheless, in this time period, this is when the first charges were dropped, or not dropped. They were leveraged against him, and so he was accused of child pornography in 2002, 21 counts. 21 counts, folks. That's a lot.
That's a whole lot.
He gets acquitted. Why? Why? What? How could he do that? Well, what sign is the sun sitting in?
Sag.
And what rules Sag?
Jupiter. Jupiter came through for him, right?
It didn't smear his career.
Yeah.
No losses yet, right? The charges were dropped as of 2004, but there were still pending charges, right, that had to be dropped later, and we'll talk about those here in a minute. So during this Sun Dasha, right, there's some things that transpired that were the warning signs, and the sun in the chart is your soul, your conscience, albeit. There's two sides. There's a side that leans towards the world, which is the egotistical, dictatorial disposition that the sun can produce, the intensity of the heat of the sun that burns off others. But also it's the intensity of the heat that can burn within so that you can get through the confusion of your mind and listen to your inner being, your heart. Because in Kemet, we weighed the what?
The heart. Heart gets a feather.
And the sun is connected to the heart, right? So his conscience was probably alerting, sending a red flag through these particular examples. Hey man, you got off.
You got off. Like
off, like bye off.
Off with career still intact.
So remember, we talked about those things that come to pre-warn you. To lean, you're supposed to be leaning. The scales of Libra were supposed to tip in towards the balance of spirituality. Well, let's see what happens, because karma will deal its dealings. We hit a moon dasha right in 2007, and guess what, folks? In 2008, He was acquitted of 14 counts that were charged in the Sun Dasha. So even in the Moon Dasha, he had the ability to literally stave off any negative karma. But isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting that that is when he created that In the Closet series? Now, look, folks, that series is all about drama, isn't it? Right? One drama after one drama after, and you know, I even watched it. I was like, man, let me see what this is like. This is crazy. Like, you know, at that time, which comparatively now, that's nothing to things that we're seeing to this in this day. But at that time in 2008, 2009, 2010, In the Closet was a big thing because he had, you know, a little soundtrack that went with it and everything. But it was portraying things that were happening that were unsavory, some of them sexual, some of them violent, all things that tie into Scorpio. See, the moon is now playing itself out throughout this. And this is when he does fall into some obscurity, musically speaking. We don't hear from R. Kelly as much during this time period. Right. But what rules the moon?
Mars.
And it's where in the 12th house of the what? The closet.
The closet.
Just look. Because we think that the mind produces things arbitrarily. No, your karma, your being has already been articulated. So when these things unfold, he's literally spilling the beans, right? He's telling you that in the closet there's things in his closet, right? Simultaneously, you don't write anything without some type of purview or experience of it from your own personal background,
Right.
right? Growing up in Chicago, I'm sure In the Closet wasn't a hard thing to write, but also understanding that he himself had some things going on behind the scenes. And Mars was, I'm sure, at play. This is when the sex cult really, right? If you go back, that's kind of like this is the era that these things kind of behind the scenes, they more or less take place, right? The Moon Dasha. And that Moon Dasha lasts for 10 years. Well, you can go and, you know, do your research and get deeper into it, right? Into the specifics of those particular outcomes in that dasha, but just know, right, that this is a time period that literally he's feeling an emotional overtone, an emotional overwhelming emotion. He's over, you know, writers and people that create these things, they get it out through their art, right? They get it out through their music, through what they produce. It's kind of a catharsis. And guess what is the sign of catharsis? Scorpio. See, these things are serious, right? Now, you have two options to turn, you know, the Scorpion energy is kind of like eighth house energy. It's transformative. But a caterpillar can turn into two things. What two things? A butterfly, which feasts on or eats the subtle essence of flowers, or what else? A moth.
Yeah, moth. Yep.
Right? And moths, what do they say? Are attracted to the what?
To the light.
To the flame.
Yeah.
See how this goes, huh? Right? Caterpillar or butterfly? What do you think? Right? A moth or butterfly? What do you? I'm thinking moth because the attraction, the innate need to feel or to be around something, the light of a young woman, the energy of a young woman or women. Period. It becomes more intense, more insatiable, more driven, more. I gotta have it, and that produced Mars Dasha. Mars Dasha starts in 2017, my people. And guess what? This is when it begins. Right? This is when the undertow takes R. Kelly under. Right? Can be healing. Can be. If you're willing to heal, if you're willing to pay the price, the sacrifice to remove yourself from the situation, which Scorpio has the power to do, believe it or not. Scorpio is the power to extract itself. It's a solitary creature. You don't see scorpions rolling in packs, right? They're by themselves.
Right.
But when you have an entourage, lots of people that feed your addictions, healing isn't in the cards.
And
Catharsis is.
for those who catch it on the audio, one of the commenters commented on catharsis being also related to healing, and that's what we're answering right now.
Right. We're just, piggybacking on it. Because it's correct. She's correct.
Right.
Absolutely. But it doesn't happen that way all the time. Right. And it can, right? But Moon in Scorpio is debilitated. So that catharsis is more of a painful process versus one that really relieves the pain. But
with
right?
No cancellation.
None. Not one.
Yep.
It is real deal. So, right? Going deeper, right? Mars Dasha. This is when the pot is boiling, right? And he's in, right? It's the current Dasha he's in right now, my people. Right now, he's in a Mars Dasha. And isn't it ironic, tying it back to the transits? Mars is in the 12th house. My goodness. That is serious stuff, right? July 2017, this begins one of the processes of when they begin to charge him, right? The charges begin to rack up, right? Nothing sticks quite yet, but they're beginning to stick, right? Because the 12th house is that house now. You got to pay the piper, and they call him the what?
The piper. The piper.
This is wild stuff, folks. Saturn aspect. It's wild. I mean, I'm not laughing at a man's downfall, but it's like serious. Like, this is when you pay the piper. You got to pay for your infractions. 12th house stuff is gonna make you realize I should have, could have, would have not. Hindsight is 2020. It's always 2020. So,
Oh yeah.
right? January of 2019 is when Surviving R. Kelly hits. Right? Look at that Dasha. Look at that Dasha. What's the Dasha? It's Mars Rahu, but it's at the verge of Mars Jupiter. And when that hit, when that Surviving R. Kelly hit, I never watched it, didn't need to, because I already knew the gig is up. They're on you, man. When you make a six series, how many? Look, most documentaries at best are 1 to 2. 6, folks. 6 shows of just nothing but R. Kelly.
Like, you really mess.
Somebody is on you,
man. They gee whiz.
Look, we talked about this in the Cancel Culture podcast. Literally, the Time's Up movement was responsible for a lot of these transactions. They boycotted him already. Cancel culture was already on him during this time. Time's Up movement is just like Me Too movement. It's no joke. Cancel is the 12th house. Mars is hidden. 12th house is hidden enemies, and Mars is an enemy like or a ferocity, or it's a fierce planet. And guess what? Guess what? The Mars has the planet of the moon, which is women, because Mars rules the moon. This is how you read it. You say, well, what does this rule anything? Because not every planet rules something, right? But this one rules. See, Sun doesn't rule anything. It's ruled by. There's no planet 11th. But Mars rules the moon. So Mars has moon power with it. And that means women power, or the power of women as secret enemies, enemies that are coming for your head. It's crazy, right? 2019, February, he's charged with 10 counts of sexual abuse, right? Which is sexual abuse is the word we play. That's what we replaced the R word with, is sexual abuse, right?
Right.
Misconduct, right? Kidnapping, forced labor, racketeering, obstruction of justice. Stacked. So in the Sun Dasha, Moon Dasha, it was his free, is the time to say, look, maybe I should just go on and just do one, maybe two, and then that's it.
Look, all of these charges that you just fired off really don't have anything to do with the underage child pornography. It have anything to really do with any of that, because he can't get charged for that again. I don't think.
Sex trafficking,
right?
One.
Well, but that's not really age specific. You understand what I'm saying?
Not.
That's just yeah.
No, it's not. But age specific does come up in the child pornography.
But
Right.
but is that in this case?
Yes.
Okay, so he had more of it.
Yeah. Child
Yeah,
pornography.
see, he had his opportunity right back then.
He did. They say he paid $250,000 in 2002 or 2003 rather, to deal with that case. And paying to me, folks, is an admission of guilt. Sorry. I mean, I'm not saying R. Kelly's guilty, but when you pay somebody to shut up, if I didn't do it, you can sing all you want, right? I didn't do it. Prove it, right? So this is when things really are spiraling out of control. Mars in the 12th house is now where we are at this current time. In August of 2019, he's charged with soliciting a minor and prostitution. Yeah. It's rough. Mars aspects the 7th house, and it aspects Rahu, and Mars rules Rahu, so it also has Rahu power as well. Moon and Rahu power in the 12th house of secret enemies and hidden things is not to be played with. In March of 2020, because he did get incarcerated and he was able to make bail, right? But in March of 2020, that's when they said, no, you can't go. You are now a resident, no longer a visitor. Finally, and I hate to say finally, but it's really not over. There's other things that we're going to see, especially when the Rahu Dasha begins very shortly. Because Rahu's going to be in the, even it isn't interesting that he gets into a Rahu Dasha and then Rahu goes to the 7th house. That's just like karma. Like when you get into the inner planes and you talking to yourself, your Asar, you like, I was like, look, I warned you internally. I gave you heads up. You can't say nothing, because when Rahu comes, it's literally at the same time in the 7th house of other people. So it's like all these things have been laid out before you, and having that kind of ability to extricate yourself is almost like it's a pain in the inner planes. You know, we call Amawit. Amawit is a 3 part creature which sits at the side of the scales where your heart is weighed, right? It's the part of us that literally represents the lion, which is pride, the hippopotamus, which is unbridled passion, and the crocodile, which is cunningness and craftiness, right? It takes you back into the inner plane. It takes you from the inner planes and reprocesses you, and you die the second death, right? That's initiate talk. So when you get initiated, you know a little bit about it, but that means that you are reborn. You're not reincarnated. There's two options: reincarnation and to be reborn. Most people on the planet are reborn. People that seek the higher, that lean on the scales towards the spirituality or in the spiritual vein of things, they are reincarnated. You pick up where you leave off. You get people that are parents and situations that come to you that bring you the opportunity to live a spiritual life. And when you're reborn, the slate is wiped clean and you have to start and find your way back. Right. So
Right.
Amuit is sitting there when he's in the inner planes, right? Unless he does some of that healing that the sister talked about, and it's always still possible to heal. It's always possible to enact your will to be free of the animal. Not a free will, but a will that allows you to be free.
Right.
Right? Then you can enlighten yourself. You can lift yourself. You can put yourself in a better position. You can say, hey, and he did make a song, ironically, in this Mars Dasha that says, I did it. Now, I wouldn't have done that if I was innocent, but apparently he never said what he did, but he did say, I did it, whatever that means, right?
Right.
So, this shows, folks, right, the karma of a man that has these circumstances it etched in his being. Excuse me. It's etched in his spirit to go through these experiences to gain insight and to understand the lessons that come with sexuality, popularity, power, right? I'm not saying he's attractive because he's a man, but I'm sure women at some point found him attractive by some means, right? Maybe the power was what was attractive, but that Libra is that energy, right? Libra ascendant gives you that power to attract. The law of attraction falls under the Heteru realm. There's about 8 other powers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? The law of attraction is 8 other laws, right? Because you need the law to repel, right? You need the law of understanding how interconnectedness works. There's other laws, folks. So law of attraction can get you in trouble. Right?
Absolutely.
So don't hearken so much on the law of attraction. Hearken on the law of peace. Hearken on the law of unity. Right? Those are laws that supersede the law of attraction, because then it allows you to turn them off and on.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So with that, right, we're gonna leave Mr. Kelly, right, and in the annals of Cosmic Convos podcast, right? But
So,
this, go ahead.
what was you about to get into? Because I was we wanted to speak on that Rahu Dasha.
Well, Rahu's just gonna basically bring him a reality that is not one that he's ever been accustomed to living for an extended period of time. Rahu acts like Saturn, right? So it brings, Rahu creates a desire, an itch that you can't what?
You can't scratch it. You can't scratch it. Nope.
Yeah. Rahu, we always talk
You can
about
scratch
Rahu.
it, but you won't resolve it.
You
You can
scratch it,
scratch
but
that.
it's going to get
It's
worse.
going. Yeah.
You scratch it and the itch gets stronger, right?
Yeah.
So guess what? You have to learn to what? Ignore. You have to learn to center. You have to learn to put that itch and make that itch work for you instead of you working for the itch. And granted, being incarcerated, being around individuals that are not of that ilk or character makes Rahu even harder. And I'm not saying the man's going to do anything sexual by any means in prison, right? But isn't it interesting that in the Mars Dasha, a lot of things were so-called exposed that were very unsavory. So Rahu is going to make sure that all those things that you had are going to be lived out in your inner planes. Rahu it's not a real planet. It's a sensitive point in the sky. You can't see it unless eclipses happen. So your will becomes what?
Eclipsed.
You can't do the things you want. You can't enact the powers that you have. All those powers become null and void, or at least in the background. So now you're making or producing music from the inside four walls. You're advising from it. And that's if someone even deals with it. Because remember, here's the crazy thing. Mars is in the 12th, but Mars also rules Rahu. So it's still kind of like a Mars Dasha extension. Does that make sense?
Right.
So it's still going to be incarceration, things that create loss, coming back from, from a low place is what it is.
Yeah, Rahu is an agent for Mars.
Absolutely. Mars is ruling Rahu. So Rahu is that same energy. But now it's in Aries, so it's fighting. It's the need to drive. It's the need to get yourself out of this situation, right? That's going to be the drive and the itch that can't be scratched, is to try to free yourself from a prison that you know full well you've never been used to living in this kind of way or life at all in your entire existence. Does that make sense?
Too much sense.
And to add fuel to the fire, Rahu will be in the 7th house with its natal Rahu for 18 months. For 18 months, Rahu, he's going to be there for 18 months, guaranteed.
Well, he's going to be there for...
Well, here's the thing.
What 3 years plus 18, but I mean, he's probably going to be in there for the next 5 years at least.
Yeah, they could try a retrial, right?
But that's probably going to take about like 5 years or something like that.
Exactly. At least 2.
Because he got 2 until he enters the Rahu Dasha, and then those 18 months that Rahu...
He's got 6 months. He's got 6 months left of Mars.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm sorry. No, you're right. 2 years. My brother, my fault, brother. That's 2024. You're right. 2 years. But Rahu enters, right? It enters into, there you go, right? As of April of 2022, April 14th, 13th, I think, right around there, right? Right. It's going to enter into Aries. Mm-hmm. So even if you don't get the Dasha, you get the transit, which leads you into the Dasha. Right? It's rough. So my heart goes out to the brother, right? In the sense that I hope he understands that, learning these deep lessons is a cost that comes with all that power. Remember, Indra is the king of the gods. And Indra had to learn the responsibility. Indra had to do penance, didn't he? Right? This is what you will see, right? The penance, I don't want to say apology, but possibly reaching out to the world to say, you know what, I did have some things that I was I had some addictions. I had some things I didn't like about myself, whatever the penance might be. Then the world and the supreme being and the ancestors and those forces that be might swing the tides towards an ultimate one day removal of that particular 12th house apparatus of prison or incarceration. But again, Rahu is going to be just that. It's a continuation of Mars energy.
Indeed. Yeah, this is Yeah, I mean, the science never, never like, it always, just, expresses itself and just, that, and like I said, this is one of the main things we're doing this podcast for, astrology's not play. No. It's not play at all. Mm-mm. you know, there's been a lot of people that's over the years, maybe unknowingly, you know, have kind of, you know, demoted to science, you know, and stuff like that. But, you know, hopefully as we grow, as we continue to do these shows and different things like that, and as you all continue to participate and show love or whatnot, we can start changing that tide because, yeah, it's just rolled out right there, man. And it's just laid out, you know.
Laid out. Ghana was laid out, right?
Right,
Britney Spears laid out, right?
right.
Coco Chanel laid out, right?
Bill.
Bill, and Bill was talking, right? Bill was talking, and now here's the thing: Bill had something similar. All that power, all that, all the money, it meant nothing when it comes to karma. It's humbling. So it
Right.
teaches lessons that you and I, what do they say? The supreme being is the best judge, the best executioner.
Mm-hmm.
Just get out the way. When you see somebody doing something and they're headed in a destiny, a path, and they can't control themselves to a point where they destroy their lives, destroy the lives of others, break up happy homes, get out the way. Get out the way. Right? God is neither rewards nor punishes. It
Right.
leaves that up to you. So with that, right, I definitely think we nailed this particular show just like we nailed the others. So appreciate y'all definitely coming out tonight, and we're gonna have more of this coming throughout the season, folks. It's gonna get good.
Absolutely. 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 And you know, with all that being said, this is episode 19. Thank you all for tuning in. Big up to y'all out there in the chat or whatnot. Appreciate your input and your participation and all that good stuff.
Definitely.
Be sure to make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and share this with your people or whatnot, so we can, you know, take this thing to the next level, you know, get this algorithm working in our favor or whatnot. Brother Wright, you got anything you want to say before we officially close out?
No, just keep on tuning in. Keep on, spread the word. Send it to people that have something to say about R. Kelly. If somebody's
Right.
saying something about R. Kelly and he's such this, that, and the other, send it to them so they can get maybe another side of the equation, maybe another personal perspective that might change how they feel about the brother, because he is a brother, right? And just because, that's old saying, just because you have the complexion don't mean you have the connection. But ultimately he did do a lot for musically for black people, and at least had some of our best interests at heart at some point in his career. So don't, throw the baby out with the bathwater. Definitely spread this around. If people start throwing them under the bus and saying things that really, aren't compassionate, at least try to see it from a perspective that this man has some things that he's challenged with, share it, see what they say.
Indeed. Because I mean, you know, just kind of to that point, one thing I kind of hope that this the what's happening right now in regards to, you know, cancel culture and going and, you know, trying to hold people accountable to things is that it exposes something into the actual justice system that, you know, here's the thing that people have to realize: no matter how harsh you punish someone or, you know, whatever you got going on, it doesn't kill the behavior in the people.
No.
You know, I mean, if that was the case, you know, the first person to get the death penalty, that would have set a tone for everybody. Would have been like, oh, I ain't doing that no more, right? So it has to be, you know, the governing powers have to evolve and understand what rehabilitation really is and how do you really fix the people in your society or whatnot. You know, you do at some point, you know, there's a role for restraining someone, you know, for a time or whatever, but, you know, also needs to evolve in how do you actually change, uplift the society in general to prevent it from happening again, you know.
True. Remember, they call it a criminal justice
Right.
system, right? Not the justice. Right.
Exactly. So, with that being said, I want to, thank you all for tuning in. And this has been this week's episode. We will be back next week with another great episode. And make sure you check out the other podcasts as well. The Single Dad podcast, the Plant Based with Love podcast, the First We Build podcast, or whatnot. Check them all out. You know what I'm saying? Because it's, they're different topics, but they all kind of work together in a little neat way or whatnot. So definitely show some love to the other content or whatnot. And make sure you subscribe to Calipurusha, right? You can get to that right here from this channel. You can see it here. And also subscribe to the Ninth Lord Films channel, YouTube channel, and whatnot. And got another film that we're working on. It will be out relatively soon, so stay tuned for that or whatnot. But that's all I got right now. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back next week, and we're out. Peace.